Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us once again. I am your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are doing well today. As we get things kicked off here, we have a schedule change last minute. Yesterday, we were supposed to have on new data security, and unfortunately, due to issues beyond our control, they have been rescheduled for later in the month of December. So if you're looking forward to that interview, again, we apologize, but things are what they are. And again, they are going to be on the show just in December. So today we have computer and technology news, and we have a lot of stories because, just like yesterday, we couldn't get to them all, or really many because, of course, our interview ran long, which we enjoy, which we like. But we have a lot to talk about today, and it's actually a pretty good day for a solid segment of computer technology news, because one of the larger issues that keeps rearing its head happens to be net neutrality. And yeah, the FCC, the chairman, just released his plan to uniformly repeal net neutrality, which, if you don't recall, was hotly debated and finally pushed through in the previous administration. So this administration, though, has been making moves to completely dismantle what really a lot of consumers fought for. So, and there's votes coming up. There's time still to contact congressmen, things like that, to let them know your support and or your anger at such a move. And yeah, we're going to be covering net neutrality, what it looks like, and what the effects of repealing it could look like. So with that being said, before we get started, a few things I should mention, including ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find anything and everything having to do with today's show. Be that a link to any of these stories or articles that we talk about here today, be that our social media contest, which is still brought to you by Logitech. And yes, there is going to be a winner this Friday. We won't be able to read it because Thursday, Friday, no show here for Computer America. We'll be running best ofs. But instead, we will announce the winner on Monday, or the winner who was chosen this Friday. So just like that, very simple. And let's see. So we have that and the live video stream where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Just another way to check out what it is we do here on the program. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and let's start talking about computer technology news. And I think we will do just that, start with net neutrality and talk about what it looks like when the chairman has decided to repeal net neutrality. So here we go. Computer technology news brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. Here we go. All right, so this article that I pulled, although there are a number of different websites that are obviously running stories because this has just broken in the past couple of hours, but yeah, this is the one we're going with because they have a pretty good summary. And this coming from Engadget, Ms. Mallory Locklear. And FCC chairman reveals plan to kill net neutrality. Dun dun dun. Yes, that's hey, that's what you can expect, and that's what we have been dreading. And we'll talk about, maybe towards the end, how, unless there's some kind of huge public outcry, which there has been multiple times, unless something really, really fundamental changes, yeah, this has a real chance of going through. Like, just because you hear all about it all the time does not mean that we are impervious from its effects. So here we go. saying that the full plan will be revealed tomorrow, while the FCC vote will happen on December 14th. And the plan has the timing probably couldn't be better, because let's face it, there's a lot of holidays coming up, and if you're going to vote something, if you're going to try to do something under the radar, well, the holidays when people are distracted with friends and family, it's probably a pretty good time. So, as expected, the article starts, tomorrow the FCC will release its plan to undo net neutrality protections put in place during the Obama administration, where despite plenty of opposition, the FCC and Chairman Ajit Pai will go forward with the proposal, which will be voted on by the commission on December 14th. And in a statement released today, Pai said, we'll talk about each comment that Ajit Pai happens to make about this, because a lot of what he's pushing happens to be counterintuitive. He may state one thing, and what we've seen and what is happening, complete opposite. So Ajit Pai said, today I have shared with my colleagues a draft order that would abandon this failed approach and return to the long-standing consensus that served consumers well for decades. And under my proposal, the federal government will stop micromanaging the internet. Yeah, isn't it weird that the chairman of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, probably the one agency designed explicitly to monitor, communications, and at this point does pertain to the internet. Weird how, the Communications Commission doesn't want to manage communications in this country. Kind of strange. But the ACLU has already released a statement opposing the FCC and Chairman Pai's plan, and ACLU senior policy analyst Jay Stanley said that the internet rights are civil rights. Gutting net neutrality will have a devastating effect on free speech online, where without it, gateway corporations like Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T will have too much power to mess with the free flow of information. And, now is a good time to, I think, talk about net neutrality in a nutshell, if you forgot, because this is can be a pretty complicated system. Well, net neutrality, as it's known and was passed a couple of years ago, gave essentially Title II protections to the internet, which before it wasn't. It was something of a commodity that anyone and any internet company could do anything they wanted to. And as we've seen, there were moves by the cable providers, by your AT&Ts, Comcast, and Verizons, where they were already talking about the idea of internet fast lanes, where they said that no one would lose any kind of functionality, so they claimed, but if people wanted to pay more, if Netflix wanted to use more bandwidth, if anyone wanted to, in their eyes, use the internet in any way that was more than the bare minimum, or anything that they classified as more than usual, then they were to pay more for the internet connectivity that they used. And that had a few problems, because let's take something like Netflix, for example. This was a time when Netflix, they hadn't optimized their coding right, they hadn't optimized their internet traffic and their routing, and it's true. At one point, streaming Netflix took up like 40% or 30% of all internet data every afternoon. Like, Netflix was rampant and they didn't optimize anything. That has cut back, because Netflix has made these deals and they have optimized their coding. They're not using nearly as much data as they once were. But it showed the idea that internet companies wanted to discriminate on what kind of data was being trafficked and who should pay more for that data. Why that's a big problem is because, let's take Netflix, for example. Netflix wasn't exactly pushing all of this data onto the network and saying, here, deal with it. This is going to make us a lot of money. Instead, Netflix was providing a service that a lot of people wanted. And Netflix had to fulfill their order. So network traffic, yes, it was 40%. Yes, it was a lot, but at the same time, it could be bared, and they weren't exactly breaking any rules doing it. And Netflix wasn't the one to kind of ask them to handle all this data. The consumers, their customers, AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, their internet customers were the ones asking Netflix for this data. So for them to go to Netflix and say, you're using too much, that's kind of a fallacy, because let's face it, it wasn't Netflix that was using the data. It was these cable providers' customers that were requesting the data. But still, Netflix took it to heart. Netflix did make deals and did pay exorbitant fees that other people did not have to pay. And they did optimize their code, so it's not as much of a problem. But it did give internet providers an idea of these internet fast lanes. And what net neutrality looked to do was to stop that, was to stop discriminating against certain kinds of data. And the idea that, right now, as under net neutrality, data is data is data. If you wanted to start an online business, your websites, your services, your everything, your videos, what have you, would be treated just the same by your end users as Google's videos or as Netflix videos. Just because you're a small entrepreneur doesn't mean that you have to be second tier to, larger entities. But now that the FCC is looking to repeal net neutrality, and they say that the government is being overbearing on the idea, they're being overbearing on internet providers, which is strange, because the profits of these companies has only increased, their reach and influence has only increased under net neutrality. So in a lot of ways, they're saying that they're strangling them. Kind of hard to buy that. But at the same time, once they repeal them, it gives it gives Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, these cable providers and companies such as Charter, even more ability with no oversight by any regulatory body to say that, hey, we will discriminate your data. Let's say that if you happen to be a huge news addict, you like looking up news online, and if they decided that CNN were to make a deal with, let's say, Comcast, and Fox News did not make a deal with Comcast, they could throttle Fox News services, where at the same time they could promote or internet fastlane CNN services, so that Fox News would load very, very slowly and CNN load very quickly, obviously driving more people to their partner programs. And there you have it. If you think that's too far-fetched, if you think that would never happen, it's already happened. It's already happened, and we've seen it with the likes of Verizon, with mobile data, where they make deals with Hulu or Netflix, and they say, binge on, or whatever that program was, that let you watch as much data as you want, but at the same time, it wouldn't go towards your data count. It's the same idea, except applied to your home internet and not just your cell phone or your mobile data. That kind of tiering of the internet is super anti-competitive, because obviously whoever makes the most deals, whoever throws the most money around will have the best services, and people will, at some point, the end user is going to have to pay for these services. And yeah, again, net neutrality prevents this discrimination of data, of users, of producers, everything like that. But now the chief of the Federal Communications Commission, the one person charged with protecting consumers' rights to digital rights, is very adamantly opposed to these rights that were just put in place a couple of years ago. So, getting back to the article, Senator Brian Schatz, who also shared his thoughts on the plan, saying that, quote, if adopted, the FCC's plan will change the way every American gets information, watches movies, listens to music, conducts business, and talks to their families. By repealing basic net neutrality protections, the FCC is handing over full control of the internet to providers, leaving the American people with fewer choices and less access. So what he's also saying there is, as I was saying, the providers could discriminate on what kind of data gets sent and how it gets sent and what priority is sent as. Let's say if you do a lot of Skype video calling with family overseas, or just for work, and you happen to use a lot of voice over IP, internet providers could see that and say, hey, if you want better voice over IP connectivity, pay us $10 a month and you'll get our special voice over IP package where we'll make sure crystal clear voice over IP connection happens. Completely ignoring the fact that it currently happens perfectly without you having to pay more. As I was saying earlier, if you're a news junkie, they could discriminate against news sites. If you were a Netflix watcher, they could take streaming services down. If you were a video gamer, online video games could then be discriminated against. This kind of tiering is very similar to what is currently available in cable packages, traditional cable television packages. Imagine, a sports package, a news package, a family package, all that essentially being applied to the internet instead of, one size fits all, you get everything, no discrimination. That's what net neutrality really means, fighting against that kind of tiering of the internet. So, in addition to his announcement today, Pai also penned an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying that the plan included reversing the rules that currently treats broadband as a utility, which again is kind of what, especially we here at Computer America, and we think a lot of our listeners do as well, currently treat as a broadband utility, removes protections that keep ISPs from blocking or slowing services that will shift some oversight power over to the FTC. And the proposal, which will be up for public view tomorrow, is largely expected to pass with the vote splitting among party lines. And that last sentence I really want to get into, but another part that we had heard earlier this year, when yes, this was this was open to comment sometime in March or April, I believe. We had that that moment of public comment. I think they left something like 11 million comments were left. And it just goes to show you how anti-consumer this is, where 11 million consumers, voice their opinion, largely in opposition to this, and yet it's still being pushed through. This is why you can't let up. This is why you can't ignore it, because that last sentence is largely expected to pass with the vote splitting along party lines, where even though this affects so many services and it will affect the landscape of internet connectivity for millions of people for years and years to come, this vote by the FCC is really down to 3 people. And of those 3, I think only, Ajit Pai is obviously nominated by the president, and the two others on the council, I think, are instated by maybe Congress, or maybe not even Congress. But at any rate, there's only 3 people that make these decisions in the FCC. So the sad part is, without that huge grassroots movement to say that this is bad for the consumer, this is bad for an industry in general, without that huge movement, it only takes 2 people to change the internet as we currently enjoy it. And they don't answer to the public. They're not elected. They're not, they don't have to run for office and run on any kind of record. They're appointed by people outside, that you do elect, but they're appointed by other people. So this vote is probably going to pass. As sad and as hard as it is to hear, I'm hundreds of thousands and millions of comments, hundreds of thousands of phone calls to senators, things like that. I mean, it's great, but at the same time, it's down to 3 people who we don't have direct say in whether or not that they, should be in the position that they are. So, unfortunately, net neutrality is probably going to get repealed, and there's not a lot we can do about it. The ACLU has filed a number of lawsuits. The ACLU has filed a number of lawsuits asking why the FCC is clearly acting in benefit of large cable providers as opposed to the millions of comments by millions of consumers. But that can take a number of years to even work its way through the courts altogether. So as hard as it is to understand, really, voice your support or, voice your dissent to your senators. But at the same time, this is probably going to pass, and we're going to have to find a way around this. So there you have it. And, and one more thing about this whole article, saying that they're looking to strip Title II protections from net neutrality, and they're looking to shift some of the oversight of the internet to the FTC. That's another point that was brought up earlier this year. One of his favorite talking points, saying that so much of e-commerce is there that the internet is now, part of the FTC, or at least should be, the oversight of the FTC. The thing with the FTC is the Federal Trade Commission has already been overloaded with responsibilities. And by shifting some of these responsibilities to the FTC, they can only make recommendations. They can only point things out that need dealt with. They can only bring up issues. They cannot enforce any part of any kind of contract or anything else. So by saying that, they could pass every rule in the book that says that the internet companies have to do X, Y, Z. And guess what? The FTC has zero ability to actually enforce or punish these entities if they happen to break these regulations. That's just the way the FTC is set up. The FCC, that again, Ajit Pai is currently the chairman of. They have the ability to enforce and punish these entities, whereas the FTC, no teeth whatsoever. And by them removing that, well, it means that they can now do essentially whatever they want. And even if they break the rules, short of, something coming down from the judicial branch, there's not a lot that can happen if they happen to work against consumers. So there you have it. That's our net neutrality spiel. Please, if you want to, I believe there are a couple of sites. Let's see, I think it's called Protect the Net. Battle for the Net. Battle, BATTLE, for the net.com. And they have a number of resources, including a way to call your congressman right through the website. And yeah, they have support, from large entities such as, the ACLU, Reddit and Netflix and Vimeo and Mozilla. Tons and tons of organizations have also joined the movement. You should definitely try to, voice your opinion on this one. So there you have it. And net neutrality, unfortunately, looking like no other way around it, probably going to pass. But we're going to complain about it. Yes, we are. All right. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and move on to, something a little bit more interesting and lighthearted, because I know net neutrality gets very dry. And let's face it, net neutrality, talked about it a number of times, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it. It's something that you just cannot get tired of. You should not get tired of hearing about it because so much is at stake. All right, why don't we go ahead and do Oh, that's scary. All right, so how about we do this one? Artificial intelligence. We've talked about it here on the show before. It is an amazing form of technology, and a number of companies are using it to great benefit. Well, check it out. This is an article from Engadget, Ms. Rachel England, saying that artificial intelligence spots art fakes by examining a single brushstroke. Where the technology has learned 80,000 individual strokes from 300 pieces of art. Super impressive. Now, attempts at art forgeries run from the laughable, which, and they say Monkey Jesus here in the article. Monkey Jesus, though, that was the silly looking portrait of Jesus that was attempted to be refurbished by a nun who, only wanted the best. Like, she wasn't trying to fake anything. It's just that they didn't have the money to essentially restore or pay someone to restore a portrait of Jesus from like the 1300s or something like that. And instead she said, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And so that wasn't really a forgery. That was more of a messed up refurbishing. But still, to the exquisite, where the ambiguous Baroque masterpiece nearly cost the gallery $120 million last year. Wow. Can't imagine a 120 million euro painting that almost got sold, even though it was a forgery. And traditionally, the art world has had to rely on expert knowledge and supporting documentation to weed out the real from the fake. But check it out. Now, researchers claim that artificial intelligence is able to identify forgeries simply by looking at the brushstrokes used to compose a piece. Pretty darn interesting. Where researchers from Rutgers University saying that they have demonstrated that their system broke down nearly 300 line drawings by Picasso, Matisse, and other famous artists into 80,000 individual strokes, learning how to match the features of each stroke to the corresponding artist. And some artists push harder on their stroke than others, for example, and the researchers then commission a team of artists to recreate the pieces from the dataset, with the AI correctly identifying forgeries every time on the basis of a single stroke. Yeah, that's pretty cool. If you could take a picture, feed it into the AI, and say, is this real or is this fake? And a single stroke into the scanning, it says, nope, it's fake. Just right there, very, very quickly. Now, the system is currently only useful where brushstrokes are clear, so it's not helpful on pieces where the paint has been blended. However, the team is now planning on testing the method on Impressionist art to further validate the results, heralding a potentially revolutionary technology for an industry which is traditionally slow to embrace change. But hey, being able to identify a fake painting from a real painting, again, that was, we've seen situations where real pieces of art. I mean, heck, there was that piece of art that just sold for, how much was that thing? It was $400 million, $450 million, just sold a couple of days ago. Some people say that thing was not a true, was it like a Van Gogh or something like that? Whatever it was. They said it was not a true Van Gogh. Or, what? Yeah. Well, whatever it was, they said it wasn't true. So something like this, even experts are often divided on what makes a piece real or a forgery. Hey, this could come in handy in a lot of situations. So everyone, music means we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. More Computer America and more computer and technology news right after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show, 31 minutes past the hour, and we continue on with computer and technology news. If you're just joining us, welcome into the program. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and yeah, we are, knee-deep in computer and technology news. Just did the first 25-ish minutes of the show, maybe the first 20 minutes of the show was dedicated to net neutrality. Highly recommend you go back and check that out. Or if you missed any other part of the show or any of past shows, check it out at computeramerica.com or wherever great podcasts are found, because we do have the entire show in podcast form floating around everywhere. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on into this next article. And DJI, we've had them on the show before, met them out at CES. One of the industry leaders, or probably one of the most advanced industry leaders in drone technology. Well, they did not handle this latest situation very well, because we've seen it before, and it just shows how much of a risky business being a white hat hacker is. Because in some cases, it could pay off very handsomely, and in others, it could show, well, it could land you in some legal hot water. So here we go, saying that DJI threatens legal action after researcher reports a bug. And he notified DJI of the flaw through its bug bounty program. This is an example of how you don't treat people who are essentially running quality assurance on your products. Where in August, DJI announced that it was launching a bug bounty program that would give out rewards to people who could find flaws in its software. Makes sense. A lot of tech companies have it. And according to DJI, depending on the severity of it, if, in a lot of other companies, in a lot of cases, it is consumer data accessible through your bug bounty, or is it just, something that's just kind of visual and they can quickly seal up and, means it's less. If it actually threatens the service or any of their core businesses, then you get upwards of, tens of thousands of dollars. And yeah, so DJI, someone wrote an essay. It was a security researcher named Kevin Finisterre. And reported by The Verge, the program isn't off to a great start. Where in his write-up, Finisterre described his interaction with DJI before he reported some significant problems with the drone maker's security. And before getting too deep into it, he checked with DJI first to see if their servers were included in the scope of the bug bounty program. And though it took a while for DJI to respond, it did eventually confirm that their servers were on the table. So essentially, if they could find a problem with their servers, and their servers had everything from, customer data to, to more, yeah. So, they were in the scope of the bug bounty program. And after quite a bit of digging, Finisterre put together a 31-page report that detailed what he and his colleagues had found, and that they included the private key to DJI's SSL certificate. So The key allows anyone with that certificate ID to essentially push any kind of software that they want to their service. So if they wanted to put a keylogger or a Trojan or anything else onto DJI services, well, hey, they could have done it. So that's a huge security flaw for them to be able to provide the private key to their SSL certificate. Folks, the SSL certificate is the difference between HTTP and the HTTPS. So there you have it. And they said it had been leaked on GitHub, allowing Finisterre to see a pile of customer data stored on DJI's servers. And Finisterre turned in his report, and DJI eventually said that the information warranted a $30,000 reward. So that was the maximum amount that DJI was willing to pay. But what followed was a series of negotiations over the terms of the deal, largely focused on what Finisterre could or couldn't say about the situation. And after a number of lawyers told him that the agreement was risky at best, and as Finisterre put it, likely crafted in bad faith to silence anyone who signed it, and after being sent a letter saying that he had no authority to access DJI servers, and the company was therefore reserving its right of action under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, Finisterre abandoned the deal. Folks, if someone finds one of your problems and you offer them $30,000 to say, thank you for pointing this out, thank you for providing us this information in good faith so that we can fix our system, and then you say, hey, by the way, that bug that you found totally violates our privacy, and we're going to sue you because you totally broke our rules. Which again is the entire point of a bug bounty program, is to find security flaws. So these types of programs are used by a number of other companies, including Samsung, Apple, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and even darknet black markets. But for them to work, they really need to lay out their terms from the get-go. DJI has now created a website that provides more information on its bug bounty program, but that wasn't available when they announced it in August. Really sounds like these security researchers tried their best to work within the confines of the bug bounty program, but hey, it's hard to hit a moving target, and looks like DJI had moved it a couple of times. So DJI has released a statement about the situation, saying that DJI asked researchers to follow the standard terms for bug bounty programs, which are designed to protect confidential data and allow time for analysis and resolution of a vulnerability before it is publicly disclosed. The hacker in question refused to agree to those terms, despite DJI's continued attempting to negotiate him, and threatened DJI if his terms were not met, where you can read the full statement here. Now we're in a battle of he said, she said. But, yeah, I mean, if they agreed to $30,000 and this security researcher had done something to the effect of trying to extort even more money out of them, then DJI is completely in the right here. But at the same time, you know, it's hard for a lot of people to believe that security researchers would do this, because as soon as you have this stain on your record that says that, you know, X security researcher tried to extort money from a company, you're essentially blowing up your career for the hope of, you know, a minimal payout. And if this is true, then, you know, again, more power to DJI, but it's hard to imagine a white hat hacker actually taking his credentials, putting them on the line for DJI to pay through the nose. So now we're in a battle of he said, she said, and it's probably going to be worked out in court. But for now, that is the situation as we know it. Doesn't look good for either party. Let's be honest here. So there you have it. And let's see. Let's go on over to. All right. Why don't we do this one where a little bit of justice for a situation that affected one of the largest shows on TV. Game of Thrones. Yes, the Department of Justice indicts HBO Hacker for swiping episodes and documents. This is coming from Engadget, Swapna Krishna, and a gentleman whose name is Bazad Mesri stole terabytes of data, including unaired episodes from the media network. The media network, of course, being HBO. And yeah, you may remember this. It was back from the summer that a hacker went after HBO, said that they had obtained scripts and unreleased episodes from Game of Thrones, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Ballers, and The Deuce, where the hacker demanded $6 million in Bitcoin from the media company, and they threatened to release more confidential information if his demands were not met. So essentially, he tried to hold HBO ransom by saying, I'm going to release a lot of your shows and scripts to, some of your biggest ones, obviously attempting to hurt their bottom line in, and saying, I won't do it if you pay me a lot of money in Bitcoin. And yeah, it was a huge deal. Those episodes, as far as I do recall, did get released. They were compromised from a database, I believe in India, where they were going under post-processing or, closed captioning, something like that for Indian audiences. And, hey, just takes the weakest link in the chain to leak out all of your episodes. At any rate, saying that the charges from the Department of Justice are multiple counts of accessing a computer without authorization, computer fraud, identity theft, and extortion. Some pretty severe crimes. Now, the hacker in question is named Bazad Mesri, an Iranian national who has worked on behalf of the Iranian military to conduct computer network attacks in targeted military systems, nuclear software systems, and Israeli infrastructure, according to the indictment. So, he has a certain set of skills, and he used them for evil. No bueno. Now, the theft consisted of terabytes of information, which wasn't limited to scripts and unaired episodes, where they said that he also got his hands on internal documents, personal employee information, and credentials for online services. So that could be any number of items from HBO. And while this is a win for HBO legally, it doesn't have much practical effect, where Mesri isn't located in the United States and hasn't been arrested. However, it does give the media company additional ammunition if more of the leaked data starts cropping up around the internet. So at least they have a person that they can point to and say, this is the person that cost us X amount of money for threatening and releasing so much information. So good. Yeah, again, not arrested, so maybe not total justice served. But at least now we have something that we can point to and say, so this is what happened. So let's see. Let's do a quick one real quick, and yeah, let's continue on with Engadget. And just real fast, for anyone out there who does not know, being able to shoot 4K photos with your phone, it's becoming more and more popular. And because, hey, let's face it, the hardware is finally out there to actually do it. And Facebook is now supporting 4K photos in Facebook Messenger. That's right, because otherwise it would downscale everything to make them, to make it easier to send, less data to use, blah, blah, blah. Well, now the company promises that the images will send just as quickly, even though 4K, as compared to, 1080p, 4K is 4 times the amount of data. They're promising that the photos will be sent just as fast. Now, Rob Lefebvre, and this is again from Engadget, saying that the Facebook Messenger has recently gotten some nifty additions, like the ability to share Apple Music and Spotify tunes as well as send cash to friends and new video chat filters. So much in the same vein as its competitors such as Snapchat. Well, now you can send and receive photos via the messaging service, saying that at 4K resolution at the same speed as your regular photos, according to Facebook. Facebook says that people are sharing 17 billion photos via Messenger each month. 17 billion! My goodness. What are you people doing? 17 billion. I don't think there are 17 billion items of interest in the world. I don't know, whatever. But they said 17 billion photos are sent via Messenger, and 4K will make your conversations richer, sharper, and better than ever. Of course, you'll need to update your Messenger app to the latest version, and 4K photos are available right now on iPhone and Android in most major markets. US, Canada, France, blah, blah, blah. So, there you have it, with the feature rolling out to more countries in the coming weeks. So, again, just a quick one, 4K photos coming to a Facebook Messenger near you. But of course, to take those photos, you're going to need things like Samsung or the Google Pixel or the iPhone or, one of these 4K capable cameras. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about, all right, this is why there's a new service out there. We've talked about ad blocking before and how it's a good move in general to get an ad blocker. Not because we hate ads and not because we hate services that we use, but instead it's that a lot of ads in a lot of different sites do contain malware. It is a vector of attack that has been used more and more. Well, ad blockers, they're one part of a secure browsing experience. The other part, which is becoming more and more necessary, is something called a script blocker. And a script blocker is, just like it sounds, a service that you download, add onto your browser, and it blocks scripts from running on your, on your browsing session. And it can stop things such as annoying pop-up ads. It can stop things as, redirections. It can stop things such as, autoplay videos, things like that, just things that are annoying, but now are starting to block things that are potentially privacy invading or just plain dangerous. And again, you can find these on Mozilla, Chrome. I don't think I've seen any on Edge, maybe, but most popular web browsers that do have plugin support do have some form of a script blocker. Why that matters? Check it out. This is an article from Ars Technica, Dan Gooden, saying that no, you're not being paranoid. Sites really are watching your every move, and saying that sites log your keystroke and mouse movements in real time before you click submit. So yeah, and there's a lot of reasons to do this. We're not going to go through this entire article because it is rather lengthy, but this is a service that is getting more and more popular. And they say that if you have the uncomfortable sense someone is looking over your shoulder as you surf the web, you're not being paranoid. And a new study finds that hundreds of sites, including Microsoft.com, Adobe, and GoDaddy.com, employ scripts that record visitors' keystrokes, mouse movements, and scrolling behavior in real time, even before the input is submitted or is later deleted. So that means if you enter, wrong information or information that you don't want them to know about, and you have a change of heart and you delete it, hey, in many large organizations, in those situations, well, hey, it's already captured. So a study published last week reported that 482 of the 50,000 most trafficked websites employ such scripts, and usually with no clear disclosure it's not always easy to detect the sites that employ such scripts, and that the actual number is almost certainly much higher, where particularly among sites outside the top 50,000 that were studied. So they said that a collection of page content by third-party replay scripts may cause sensitive information, such as medical conditions, credit card details, and other personal information, to leak to third party as part of the recording, and that this may expose users to identity theft, online scams, and other unwanted behavior, and that the same is true for the collection of user inputs during checkout and registration process. So, as much as you'd like to think that these services only, the only information that they collect on you is the information that you put into the search fields or forms, and then when you hit submit, that's all they get. Turns out that a lot of them are getting information no matter what you do on their website. They're getting all of that. As to why, just real quick, there's a lot of reasons. I would think that the primary one is analytics to see where certain pain points are in using a service's website. So if Microsoft, let's say one of these companies that does use this type of software, if Microsoft were to say, where do people navigate? How do they use our website? And where are they trying to ultimately go? And how do they go about getting there? And if they find that people are trying to, look for products on a website, but they go through, 3 or 4 clicks, maybe they'll change around their website and say that, hey, people are ultimately trying to go here more often than not, and we will make this easier to get to. Very simple. So, and again, you can apply that to a lot of things. You could apply that to companies who are looking to optimize ad revenue, saying, how do people look at our website? They can see your mouse movement, they can see your scrolling behavior, where you click, what you click, and essentially, one person's data, probably not too important, but if you could analyze, 10,000, 100,000, or, 1 million people's clicks, you could better position your ads to get more clicks and instead get more views. There are a number of reasons that you could do this, from the usability to, to ad revenue to, just making sure that you get every little bit of data out of this interaction you have with your users. So, again, my recommendation, as this isn't strictly illegal. This isn't something that you particularly have to worry about. They said that this possibly could fall into the wrong hands. Just like any recording, just like any information these companies have on you, and they could take that information and potentially the recordings could be leaked, and then your private information could then be out there in that form. But of course, our recommendation here at Computer America is to get something called a script blocker, because you should already be running an ad blocker, and script blocking is just something you should already be doing. Just a couple of weeks ago, we did more stories about websites that are being compromised, either from inside their own organizations or from outside their organizations, and they are mining Bitcoin through people's browsing sessions. Services such as Showtime, their online portal, had been compromised in this manner. A script blocker would block that kind of behavior as well. There's more and more, ads are just one form of it. Scripts, though, are becoming super surreptitious and robust in their capability. So script blocking, absolutely something you should definitely watch for. All right. So there you have it. There you have that. And why don't we choose, let's see, we have time for maybe one more story. Why don't we talk about one we did not get to talk about yesterday? And it's the idea that self-driving cars They're coming, no way about it. We've already talked about the one in Vegas that is currently running right now, today. Check it out. There's a self-driving bus in Vegas making its rounds on like a 0.6 mile closed loop, but at the same time, hey, self-driving bus, it's absolutely a thing. Well, what is the eventual outcome of this? And we're looking at it with Uber, saying that Uber is taking a big risk by ordering 24,000 cars from Volvo. That's right, 24,000 cars from Volvo, where despite recent setbacks, Uber is making another big bet on driverless technology. And this is a technology, it's probably a safe bet. Even though it's a big bet, it's probably a safe bet. Where Uber has signed a deal with Volvo for 24,000 XC90 sport utility vehicles for delivery between 2019 and 2021. And with this deal, worth about $1 billion, Uber is essentially betting the company on a self-driving future. And again, this is Uber. This is not Volvo. This is not Ford or Tesla or any of these other companies. This is a company that was built on the idea that people should have access to a ride anytime, anywhere for a reasonable price. And yeah, so not even a car manufacturer, and they're betting big on self-driving cars. And as they're saying, it's a big, risky bet for Uber, which lost about $3 billion in 2016 and is locked in a legal battle with Waymo that could cost it another $1 billion. We've talked about that. That's a whole nother sticky situation. But at the same time, hey, this kind of money being spent shows that they are committed to self-driving car projects. And so they have an insider with the Uber self-driving car project saying that many think it is at a technological standstill and plagued by significant internal tension. Saying that around the same time, Uber temporarily suspended public testing of its driverless cars after one of its cars rolled over and collided. And it rolled and flipped over and collided with another car. And the company says that another driver was at fault for the incident, and it has since resumed testing. But hey, self-driving cars, it's a technology in progress, but one that we're going to start seeing invading our daily lives here in the next couple of years. But they said that if we're not tied for first, then the person who isn't first, or the entity that's in first, then rolls out a ride-sharing network that is far cheaper or far higher quality than Uber's, then Uber is no longer a thing. And that was Uber's then CEO, Travis Kalanick. And that's what he told Business Insider last year. So even though the CEO has been replaced, the mentality still seems to be there that if Uber is to survive, they have to have a very robust and one of the first and one of the best self-driving car networks available for consumers. So the new deal builds on a $300 million deal that Uber and Volvo signed last year. And under the new deal signed Monday, Uber will accept conventional XC90s from Volvo and then add the company's proprietary sensors and more to make them fully driverless models. So they get the cars and then they essentially outfit them themselves. Super interesting, and again, just a sign that Uber is looking to not employ drivers, but actually replace drivers altogether, as well as replace the need in a lot of situations to even own a car. That's a future that I think we're heading into very, very quickly. And hey, in 10 years, 10 years, maybe the idea of not even owning a car will become the norm. So there you have it, everyone. And of course, computer technology news. Tomorrow on the program, we will have on the show Rapid X. There you have it. And yeah, we'll talk to them. We'll be talking to the director of marketing and all about gaming and gaming chairs, what it is that they provide. And everyone, in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out Computer America. And hey, see you next time. Have a great one. Bye-bye.